Got a question for you. Do you think Hollywood is putting out good movies? Now, I've heard rather good things about Oppenheimer, and there's a raging debate about Barbie. And me just asking the question, do you think Hollywood puts out good movies, is probably giving a lot of my viewers right now, a lot of you, like flashbacks to just all the reply guys essentially on YouTube that make all their money complaining about Disney and not talking about anything else. They're just complaining and complaining and complaining and complaining and complaining. And sometimes they hit on the heart of the matter. Other times they give cop-out answers to why is Hollywood bad. And they'll just say, oh, because they're bad writers now. I don't think Hollywood writers are actually that bad, believe it or not. I do think that the system of teams of writers is basically guaranteed to create a bad product. I am of the belief that one even mediocre creator that is able to get their idea onto the page is probably going to be better than hammering it through 10 people's opinions. I think a very clear offender of this was actually the Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out earlier this year. If anyone went and saw that, I watched it. I tried to enjoy it, but I could not escape the fact that there were very clearly two writers at play. There was one person, don't know if it was a man or a woman, probably a man, who very much is a fan of Dungeons and Dragons and actually understands what's fun about it, why people play it, the kinds of adventures and joking and so on, and all these good things. What makes for good D&D. And then there was someone else that is just like, we Hollywood executives aren't going to risk hundreds of millions of dollars without putting it through the standard writing protocols. And that's how you get weird things like the bard isn't allowed to have healing spells. Let's see, he's not allowed to have a sword. The bard, the druid, and the barbarian were all clearly the kinds of characters that people who play Dungeons & Dragons play those kinds of characters. Then they just kind of forced in the incompetent sorcerer with self-esteem issues, I very much felt that it was like some writer was projecting that, oh, this is what a D&D player is like. We should put that kind of person into the D&D campaign, even though no one would ever play that kind of character. Like, some people maybe would, I guess. It didn't mesh with the other three. And you could just tell that there was this need for, oh, we have to do these things by the books. And it kept coming into conflict with the things that actually made the movie good. And that's just the prime example. I don't think that writing rooms are a good thing. Which is exactly what Sag Aftra is campaigning for right now. They are trying to get... that's the Actors Guild, the writers' strike going on in Hollywood right now. They're trying to get protections against AI, which is probably a good thing. But they're also trying to get guarantees of how many people are going to be hired into these writing rooms. When they've been writing bad stuff and they want to have more writers in the room, as though they've never heard the phrase, too many cooks in the kitchen. It's crazy to me. But that's not exactly what I'm here to talk about, because that's almost beside the point. I just want to bring up that I think what is really happening to Hollywood is that in a lot of ways, for a lot of people, they have created for themselves a subculture with certain types of socio-political beliefs of how people should behave and the reasons that things are valued and how they're valued and so on, that they aren't even really aware of necessarily. Or they may try to elaborate on, just kind of screw it all up. That's I hear a lot of people saying that's basically what happened with the Barbie movie, is that it was supposed to be this feminist empowerment thing, but they couldn't actually strawman the patriarchy correctly. Hollywood is obviously not like the average American, and that comes across in the very clear political messaging that comes through a lot of the times. Which is what people are talking about when they say that movies have gone woke, and that's why they're bad. And yet the movies get made, and yet these producers look at scripts, presumably trying to make money. Which means that they aren't having these reactions to it, which I genuinely believe is because A story has to map onto the moral framework of the consumer relatively accurately. When you are talking about mass market appeal. That's why I think it's actually incredibly insidious what the Chinese Communist Party is forcing into our entertainment in order to allow some movies to be shown in China. They have all these censorship requirements that are impacting what we can consume because these studios have just let their budgets get so out of control that the only way they can break even on them is if they are one of the dozen or whatever foreign films allowed to be shown in mainland China. I think it's ridiculous. And that is going to finally bring me to what prompted me here of Hollywood just doesn't understand in like reality, the way America works and the way people see things. The clearest example that prompted me on this is all these people telling YouTubers who are not part of the union that if they work with studios, they will be permanently blacklisted from joining Sag Aftra and the nepotistic stranglehold they have on the movies industry right now. People who have signed no contract with the union, who are not represented by the union, who are not defended by the union, people who do not get their health insurance covered by or protected by the union. They have never paid into it. They've never made it into agreements. Oftentimes, they've probably never even spoken to a representative of the union. And yet, SAG-AFTRA thinks that they have power over these people and can make demands over whether or not Joe Schmo YouTuber takes a couple grand to promote a movie. They don't understand English common law contracts. Or they're just evil. Really, it could be either as the fundamental explanation here. I hope these unions collapse if that's how they're going to define scabbing. If you don't have a contract with someone, you don't have these kinds of obligations to them. It's completely ridiculous. I think this is just the latest piece of evidence of why Hollywood movies are not resonating with general audiences anymore. Because Hollywood isn't the general consumer anymore, and probably hasn't been for decades, and they've just slowly been drifting away into madness. So, you're probably not going to hear this, but I do encourage YouTubers to completely ignore the union. Let it collapse. Hollywood's going bankrupt right now. Let someone else take over. Support indie creators. Drop a like, drop a comment about if you have checked that list of all the movies that are getting delayed because of the writer's strike. Tell me which movie you are so glad is not getting worked on right now. Let me know below. Till then, drop a subscribe. Maybe check out my books. Join the book club even. Up to you. Cheers.